Welcome to Ignorance Unleashed with your host Salvatore Cavalieri.
Hey, today's video is about for rent by owners, and this video is directed to the owners of those property. What is a for rent by owner? Well, basically, it's an owner that owns an investment property, typically a house, an apartment, and they want to rent it to a third person, bypassing or not using a real estate broker or an agent or any of those services out there. They want to do it on their own. So, with that said, I have met with a lot of for rent by owners, and I have a few pearls of wisdom that I would like to share with you. Okay, for example, number one of the things I noticed is a lot of these people are totally unprotected in regards to who are they welcoming to their property or their house that they're renting, because a lot of you investor are renting your own house because you got a job somewhere else and then you need to go somewhere else, and now you're showing your property to people that you don't know. Okay, so there's a lot of scams out there and a lot of people there playing games. And actually, some of them may not want to rent from you. What they want to see is the home. They know that the home is going to be empty eventually and maybe planning to do something. Okay, so you got to make sure that you know who you are welcoming in. So you have to have a checklist. When you talk to someone, you have to have a checklist to pre-qualify them on the phone. There is tools out there that can protect your safety. There's one called Forewarn. Use Forewarn, and you will be able to see if this person is who he says it is, because once they give you the phone number, you can punch it in the system, and you will know if this person has problems and what kind of problems had in the past with the law. So protect your life, protect your kids, protect your family from unknown people that may come to your property playing the interested tenant game. So that's number one, your safety. Okay. Number two, you gotta have checklist. Okay, yes, you're talking on the phone and the phone number that they provided is accurate and all that. Don't be afraid to ask for the driver's license as a form of safety mechanism. Well, if you don't send me your driver's license, I won't show you the property. Period. Some get upset about that. Some will be tenants, but this is your safety. Okay, but you need to decide. So once you have the person on the phone, once you have the driver's license, once you have that, remember that you have to have a checklist and ask the appropriate questions, because otherwise you will be showing the property night and day to a bunch of people that don't qualify. So whatever your qualifications there are, make sure that you ask them. Okay, and still you have to go with a grain of salt, hoping that everything they're telling you is really true. Okay, so you gotta make sure that you ask the right questions. Actually, in my website there's a checklist for that, so you can download. Okay, so with that said, so safety, number one. Number two, you have to have a checklist. Number three, you need to show the property. How are you going to show the property properly and safely? So two important things that you need to take into consideration. For example, safely means finally the person shows up, hopefully showed up in time. If the person doesn't show up on time, that's a bad sign. Make sure that when you schedule the showing, let's say Tuesday at 4 p.m., Tuesday at 12 or something like that, around that time, give yourself 3-4 hours. Make sure that you call back and reconfirm the appointment, because it's typical that they schedule time with you and they don't show up at all. Okay, so you need to make sure that you do that. You confirm the appointment and confirm again. You can send them a text as well, etc., etc. Okay, so right there. So now you're showing the property. When you show the property, you need to show it in the best conditions. For example, one very important thing is to walk yourself if you were a tenant through the best flow of the house. You start, of course, in the front door. You always start with the interior and you finish with the exterior of the property. Okay, because the exterior of the property, they're already out and right there's their car. Okay, rather than bringing them in if you see that they're not the best fit. Okay, so you show the property. I typically go right to left, so I go everything there is to the right and left, but it depends on the flow of the house or apartment. So you need to show very briefly, hey, look, here's the living room, this is the fireplace, look at the view outside, etc., etc. Go next. Go next area, here's the kitchen, here are all the appliances are new, are replaced, whatever it is. You have to go to the point immediately. Your job, it is to make sure that you are qualifying this person, okay? And also, you want to make sure that, your house has all the elements they want to. Not when after you finish the signing the lease and then what? Oh, there is not an ice maker. Oh, there is not a washer. Oh, there is not a dryer. Oh. It's in the contract, but it still is a pest to deal with this. So you show the home properly. When you're showing the home, don't be afraid to schedule several people at the same time. Why? Because it creates the impression of competition. When you're doing that, you're showing to one tenant, and then maybe you do the tour to the same people at the same time, so they'll all go with you. They all listen to the same spiel from you, okay? The same speak, okay? So don't be afraid. That creates competition to do that. If you don't like that, well, stagger the appointments. One at 3 p.m., another at 3:30, and don't be afraid to say to the person, hey, look, I need to hurry up. I have another appointment, okay? Your job there is to be very professional and very to the point, and you're not there to be chit-chatting much, okay? Actually, anybody that chit-chats too much to me, I just don't like it. I have this feeling there. I ask a lot of questions, very nicely and professional, and things like that, okay? And so you complete the showing. If you're showing the property and if you feel unsure, finally, of the character of these persons that they are there, make sure that you do it professionally, you complete the thing, but also you need to make sure that if you need to run for the door, you know which one is the closest door that you can go to. For example, I never give my back to the tenants, never. And also when there been cases that this was in my early years that someone said, hey, I'm John Smith, I'm going to show up. And then it was a woman that showed up or vice versa, not the person. And immediately what I did allow for the showing, but for safety, I stood at the front door and says, hey, feel free to walk to the property. I have another appointment coming up, but over here, go to over here. So stay as close as possible to the door. Okay, have your phone in your hand. Also, when you're going to do showings, put it in some kind of calendar that someone else sees, like your wife or brothers or whomever. The appointments that you're making, that you're going to be alone in a property, you make sure that someone else has access to that. Just in case you disappear, they will know who was the last person that supposedly was with you. Okay? It doesn't hurt also to have cameras inside the home. It doesn't hurt at all to have a camera outside the home too, filming who is in the driveway coming in and out. Okay? And this thing has to be fed, whatever the cameras record, they have to be fed outside. They don't have to be fed inside, because if someone tampers with the alarm system or the camera system and they take the tape or the recording, whatever it is right now, there is no proof. Okay? So for rent-by owners, be very careful in safety, be very careful in how you pre-qualify, the appropriate questions you need to pre-qualify, otherwise you're going to get in trouble, okay? And also make sure that when you show the property, you show them in the appropriate way, not risking your life, okay? So now, why in the world an investor wants to rent by themselves, okay? Because let's say, for example, the applicant submit an application. Well, there is a lot of things that you can see and not see in an application if you don't ask the right questions or don't get the proper paperwork. Okay, so that's a longer conversation and probably a separate video altogether on this. But besides that, another thing, and I'm going to touch this very briefly, a lot of the, I would say 99% of the listings, the for rent by sale listings, are overpriced by $200, $300, $400, even more, I see. So how do I know that? Because I look at the MLS, which is a system that we have, that with a list license, and I can see what has been rented, not renting, rented, because what Drives prices is what closes, not what people are asking. Someone can ask for $3,000 for a home that is only worth $2,000, and people on the market will only pay $2,000. So that's the reason many houses sit 6 months without being renting in many cases, because they are overpriced. If the tenants can go anywhere and choose other that is rightly priced. Okay, so I see a lot of that. So those are tips for the investor. And always remember that you need to have a professional lease made. Some of the ones that you download from, some of the leases available that you download from the net are not the best ones. You need to make one that is compliant with the law in whatever state you are, but you need to have your own. Don't pick one of those that you download for $5 somewhere else. Don't do that for many strategic reasons. That's why you get a professional property manager who has those leases drafted for attorneys that represent landlords. And within the law, they draft those leases. Okay? So I just don't understand why a landlord will go through the whole hassle of showing the property, risking, betting a candidate, and then to save maybe $200, $300. I guess their time is not worth much. Okay, that's what I think. But anyway, food for thought. Thank you.